Welcome to the deep dive. You send us your sources, we dig in and extract the key knowledge.
Looking forward to it.
Today, thanks to the learner, we're diving into Chinese dietary therapy.
A really fascinating area.
Yeah, and we're going to step away from just calorie counting for a bit.
Right. It's a completely different lens.
We're exploring food not just as, fuel in the mechanical sense, but as a core source of your body's energy, the key.
Exactly. The vital energy.
So get ready for maybe some aha moments as we unpack this ancient perspective on well-being with our expert today.
It's great to be here to talk through this.
Okay, so the sources we have, they include bits from Essence of Dietary Therapy, Jungian Tai Chi, and also the Tao Experience Foundation Journal, which has insights from Dr. Eni Tseng and Master Ni.
Yes, some really experienced practitioners.
And the first big concept that just jumps out is Qi. For listeners maybe new to this, what is Qi and why is it so central here?
Well, Qi is, you could call it vital energy or life force. It's seen as the fundamental energy that animates everything, the universe, us.
Okay.
In Chinese medicine, it's what powers all our bodily functions. Breathing, thinking, healing, moving. All of it relies on Qi.
Like the body's electricity?
That's a decent analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
One source, Dr. Eni, states pretty clearly, Qi, vital energy, is the most important thing. Without it, things just don't work right.
Makes sense. So if Qi is this vital power, how do we get it? How does diet play into this?
Right, so this is where food comes in. In Chinese dietary therapy, food is seen as the number one way we get and replenish our Qi.
Number one, not just a way, but the main way.
That's the emphasis. The sources state food and diet is hashtag one source of Qi, and good nutrition is seen as crucial for everything else.
So other therapies rely on it too.
Yes, the point is made that acupuncture and even Qigong without good nutritional balance is not very effective. So diet is foundational.
Okay, that definitely elevates the importance of what we eat. So instead of looking at, say, carbs, proteins, vitamins, this approach focuses more on the food's energetic quality.
Exactly. It's about the energetic nature, sometimes called the Qi of the food itself.
How does that work?
It stems from a Taoist view, seeing the body as like a mini universe. Health is about keeping the energy in that universe balanced.
Okay.
So it's different from the Western model, which is often more, let's say, mechanical, focused on calories, chemical components.
Yeah.
Here, the energetic impact is key.
Got it. So how do they classify these energetic impacts? I saw terms like warm, cool, cold, and hot foods mentioned a lot. That's not about the food's temperature when you eat it, is it?
No, exactly. That's a really crucial distinction. When the sources say favor warm and cool foods and avoid cold and hot foods, it's about the effect the food has inside your body on your energy balance.
Ah, okay. So what makes a food cold or hot then?
Well, things like raw vegetables, salads, most fruits, especially tropical ones, they're generally seen as energetically cold. They have a cooling effect internally.
Interesting. Even if they're room temperature.
Yes. And then cooking methods like grilling, barbecuing, deep frying, even baking. These are seen as adding hot or fire energy. They can be quite stimulating, maybe too stimulating if overdone.
So what's preferred then?
The methods considered more balanced, more harmonizing, are things like steaming, simmering, making soups, stews, stir frying, boiling. These fall more into that warm or cool category.
Right, so it's about the internal energetic effect. So if you had like a raw salad with iced tea, that's energetically very cold.
That would be considered a strong dose of cold energy, yes. The idea is that combining extremes like that can potentially dampen your digestive fire, your qi.
Okay, that makes a certain kind of sense. Now, besides the type of food energy, the sources also talked about when we eat. Why is timing such a big deal?
Yeah, that relates to the body's natural rhythms. The device is generally 3 meals a day, and importantly, at consistent times.
Consistency matters.
Very much. The sources mention the spleen, an important organ in digestion in TCM, really thrives on regularity, and skipping meals is discouraged.
Especially breakfast.
Definitely. Breakfast, ideally between 7 and 9 a.m., is highlighted because that's considered the peak time for stomach energy in the Chinese medicine body clock. Fueling up then sets the stage for the day.
It sounds like there's structure, but also flexibility. I saw a quote attributed to Dr. Chung. Remember, no food is bad in Chinese medicine. There are just some foods that are not right for you at certain times.
Yes, that's a really important nuance. It emphasizes paying attention to your own body.
How so?
You're encouraged to notice how different foods actually make you feel. Do they leave you feeling warm or chilled, energized or kind of sluggish? Do they affect any symptoms you have?
So it's personalized.
Very much so. What works for one person might not work for another, or even for you at a different time or under different circumstances. Self-awareness is key.
Okay, now let's get into the 5 flavors: sweet, pungent, sour, bitter, salty. These aren't just about taste, are they?
No, not just taste. Each flavor is linked to specific organ systems and has distinct energetic actions.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Sweet is linked to the stomach and spleen, and it's seen as nourishing, helping with deficiencies. Pungent, think onions. Ginger relates to the lungs and large intestine, promoting circulation of qi and blood.
Oh.
Sour connects to the liver and gallbladder, helping to kind of astringe or hold fluids. Bitter is linked to the heart and small intestine, helping clear heat and dry dampness.
That's salty.
Salty relates to the kidney and bladder. It's thought to soften hardnesses, dispose accumulations, and nourish blood.
Wow. So the goal is to get a balance of these.
Exactly. A balanced diet, from this perspective, ideally incorporates a variety of these flavors to keep all the organ systems working harmoniously.
This is quite a shift in thinking. For someone listening, maybe in the West, who's new to this, one of the experts, Dr. Amy, offers some practical first steps. What does she suggest?
Right. She starts with a pretty fundamental question. Are you satisfied with your current state of health?
Okay, a self-check.
Yeah. And if the answer is no, she suggests a period of mindful observation. First, list your favorite foods. Then try temporarily removing some common potential culprits: coffee, alcohol, tobacco, roasted fried stuff, raw veggie salads, tropical fruits,
Cut them out for a bit.
for a period, yeah. And then keep a detailed food diary, not just what you ate, but how you felt physically, maybe for a week or more.
Okay.
For a deeper look, she suggests tracking feelings alongside diet for 2 weeks, then eliminating those forbidden foods and tracking for another 2 weeks. It's about trying to spot cause and effect for yourself.
That's quite involved, but I can see how it would yield insights. She also mentioned something about food sensitivities.
Yeah, interestingly, she suggests that as your overall system comes into better balance through these kinds of dietary adjustments, some food sensitivities might actually lessen or disappear.
That is interesting. Now, those terms fire and cold imbalances came up again. It's clearly not just about feeling hot or cold. Can you elaborate on what those imbalances look like energetically?
Absolutely. It's key to remember these refer to internal energetic states, not just surface temperature. Signs of a fire imbalance could be things like burning eyes before bed, mouth ulcers, maybe a pasty taste in the mouth, dry lips,
Okay.
or feeling kind of wired but tired, running on nervous energy, what one source called borrowed energy, maybe nervousness itself.
Chin cold imbalance.
That might look like always feeling cold, finding it really hard to get out of bed, low energy, maybe being timid or overthinking without taking action.
And there's a distinction within fire, empty versus full.
Yes, that's important. Empty fire might be seen in someone perhaps thinner, weaker, prone to late nights, worry. They might have some fire symptoms like night sweats or feeling hot flashes, but the root cause is deficiency. So the treatment is different from full fire, which might be seen in someone robust and perhaps overconsuming heating foods or dealing with acute inflammation.
And according to Dr. Amy's observations in the US, which type is more common?
She observes that empty fire is actually the predominant imbalance she sees here.
Empty fire. And she links that to
Largely to our lifestyle, especially excessive mental activity, stress, worry, the constant on state.
that definitely resonates. What specific lifestyle habits feed into this empty fire?
The sources list things like staying up late consistently, smoking, drinking a lot of coffee or alcohol, drug use, general nervousness and anxiety.
Makes sense.
And interestingly, perfectionism is also mentioned.
Perfectionism, why that?
Because striving for something inherently unattainable creates constant internal stress, which burns up that vital energy, leading to that empty heat picture.
Wow. Okay, and connecting this back to diet, the sources contrast typical US versus, say, traditional Chinese habits.
They do. The typical American diet often leans towards those fire-promoting foods, roasted, fried things, lots of coffee.
Right.
Compare that to more traditional Chinese approaches, emphasizing simmering, stewing, soups, tea, generally gentler, more hydrating methods.
And the pace of life.
That too. The idea is mentioned that a more take things as they come attitude, less hurried, is better for digestion and energy balance. Eating while stressed or rushed is seen as really counterproductive.
That makes intuitive sense. Beyond food and stress, Dr. Amy apparently had another suggestion, something about materialism.
Yes, she suggested that consciously decreasing the importance placed on material things, can actually reduce stress.
Oh, so.
By lowering those external pressures and desires, you potentially free up mental energy, create more time, more space, which can then be directed towards health, towards cultivating, inner well-being or spiritual energy.
Interesting perspective. So, bringing it back to food recommendations, if someone's looking for general guidance from this perspective, what kinds of foods are usually encouraged?
Well, steamed foods and soups come up frequently as being generally beneficial. They're easy to digest, hydrating, energetically, quite balanced.
Okay.
And there's a caution about raw vegetables and salads, especially for people who aren't, say, doing heavy physical labor.
What?
Because their inherent cold energy might be hard for some digestive systems to handle, potentially hindering nutrient absorption if the person's digestive fire isn't strong.
So, it really depends on the individual's constitution and activity level,
Exactly. It loops back again to self-awareness, understanding your body, your current state.
which requires paying attention.
Right. As the advice goes, write it all down, study your present situation, get clear on where you are energetically.
And recognizing that cravings might be misleading if you're out of balance.
Precisely. You might crave sugar when you're tired, but if the underlying issue is, say, spleen-Qui deficiency, sugar might actually make it worse long term. The idea is that once you restore balance, your body's signals become more trustworthy.
So, the core principle is avoid extremes when unwell.
Pretty much. Avoid the very cold and very fire foods when your system is stressed or out of balance. Focus on those gentle, neutral, warm, and cool foods to help regain equilibrium.
It's clear Dr. Amy Tseng has a ton of experience. Can you just briefly touch on her background?
Sure. The sources mentioned she studied traditional Chinese medicine extensively, 7 years in Taiwan, and has practiced for, over 4 decades in the US and Europe.
Long time.
Yeah, and her real focus seems to be on nutrition and diet as the cornerstone of health. She's a strong believer in combining diet with other TCM approaches, herbs, acupuncture, Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation for the best results.
Like a whole system approach.
Exactly, synergistic.
And if she had to boil down her dietary advice to something really concise,
The quote provided is, try to keep a low-fat, low-sugar, low-salt sodium diet. Get some antioxidants in your diet.
simple, solid advice that bridges both worlds, really.
Seems like it, yeah.
And if listeners want to hear more directly from her,
There's a YouTube link mentioned in the sources where she apparently explains more about energy, acupuncture, and Chinese medicine principles.
great. Well, this has been incredibly illuminating. It's a completely different framework for thinking about food, isn't it?
It really is.
The big takeaway for me is this shift towards food as energy, as balance, and the emphasis on self-awareness, listening to your own body's response, rather than just following external rules or numbers.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that energetic relationship between you and what you consume and how it makes you feel individually.
So, for everyone listening, maybe pause and consider this energetic perspective. Could thinking about empty fire or cold or the energetic nature of foods change how you approach your meals?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize any of those imbalance patterns? Might you experiment, maybe gently, with more steamed foods or soups? It's definitely food for thought.
Nicely put.
And a huge thank you again to the learner for sending in these sources. This was a really insightful deep dive.
It certainly was a lot to think about.